Hello everyone, my name is Angel and I am the tutor. Today our topic is areas of circles and triangles. I chose this because I helped one of my students with it today and it made me think, so I think that probably out there y'all are having trouble too. Of course, I've got to get my business out of the way, so please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you like me on Facebook, and you follow me on Twitter. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to spend this first slide really just talking about concepts that you should know in order to be successful with this. Okay, so the first thing, well, first off, please do not make fun of my drawing or highlighting. I know I can't do it very well, but no, it's not allowed. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we understand our shapes, okay? So the easy peasy one, which everybody already knows, is the triangle, right? So this is your triangle. That's what a triangle looks like. Yay, you're so smart. Okay, and then the next one that we're looking at is we're looking at the sector, okay? You need to know what a sector is in order to solve this problem because it's asking us about the shaded region and in the area, and so we have to know how to figure out what the shaded region is, okay? So the sector almost looks like an ice cream cone. I'm gonna draw it right side up instead of upside down because I already can't draw and I'm not trying to add insult to injury. You see, I told you I can't draw. All right, and then of course, we're looking at our segment. This part right here is our segment. The part that's highlighted is just a half a ice cream cone, I guess, just the top of it, which I kind of made it look like lips. But okay, remember, we're not judging anybody, okay? So this is our sector, and then this would be our segment. And of course, everybody knows what a triangle is, so I'm not even gonna write that down for you. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Rules rule geometry. Okay, so if this is 120, this is 120. Okay, if this is 2 meters, then this is 2 meters. Only in circle, you can't make assumptions anywhere else, just in circles. All right, so the next thing that we need to get out of the way are formulas that you should know. All right, one thing I want to make sure that you are paying attention to is that you need to have these formulas memorized. Unless you have a really nice teacher, they are not going to tell you, and maybe formulas is even the right word, but you really need to know these equations, okay? Maybe I should have used the word equations. That's more proper. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. All right, so the first one that we're going to look at is going to be when we're trying to solve for our triangle, because that's the first thing we talked about was our triangle, right? So for our triangle, look at that, that's almost perfect. Okay, so for our triangle, our formula is going to be half the base times height, or how you'll see me do it is base times height over 2 because I don't care about that one right now. Okay, so either one works for our triangle. The next one that we want to look at is our segment. Our sector, all right? So our sector formula, I'm going to attempt to draw this sector again. Okay, all right, that's about as good as it's going to get. So, all right, so for this one, I'm going to use AB because I didn't have it labeled and it doesn't matter, but it's the measure of the arc, and this is the arc right here, okay? It's the measure of the arc, and you're going to put that over 360 because a circle is 360 degrees, and then you're going to multiply that by the area of the triangle, which is pi r squared, all right? So our next and last formula or equation or thing you need to remember is 30, 60, 90. If you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say 30, 60, 90, it's a special triangle, and you need to go back and find my video on special triangles because you won't understand it just from this. All right, so it tells me that the hypotenuse, okay, is equal to twice the shorter side. It also tells me that the longer leg, and when we get there, I'll show you how to identify it if you don't know. Okay, so then the longer leg is the side times the square root of 3. So whatever the side is, whenever we derive it is, it is. So clearly the shorter leg is what S means, okay? So it's kind of our basis of things. Once we find S, we can pretty much solve for everything else. All right, so that's pretty much everything that I needed to tell you about. I already talked about the shaded region, which is right here, and that's called a segment. Oh, I know, one more thing, our game plan. All right, you'll see me write this at the top of every page. Our game plan is for us to find the area of the segment. Okay, again, this is the segment. If you didn't get it the first 500 times I told you. All right, and then we're going to find the area of the sector because it's bigger. Okay, all right, and so we're going to do the area of the sector. And then we're going to subtract it from the area of the triangle because that is the piece that's not shaded, right, in the sector. So then we're going to subtract it from the area of the triangle. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and go on our magic rocket ship. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and change my pen color. So the first thing that we need to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my plan at the top. It's never a bad idea to go ahead and have a plan whenever you're working with these because it is confusing and it takes a lot of brain power. And if somebody coughs or you get distracted, you're going to want to know where you started and stopped at. Okay, so for our game plan, we're going to start off finding our sector. And if you can remember from the formula that I just gave you like literally 5 seconds ago, our segment is the measure of AB or the arc, okay? And that's over 360. And then we're going to multiply that by the area of the triangle, which is pi r squared. Okay, I'm going to take that piece by piece. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and solve for this. All right, so the measure of the arc is 120. I can clearly see that. It told me I don't have to derive it. So it's going to be 120 over 360. Okay, make sure you don't immediately go to your calculator. I'm going to say that one more time. Do not immediately go to your calculator. Okay, just reduce it. Okay, so we can cross off these zeros, and then the greatest common factor for 12 and 36 is 12, so that's 1, 12 divided by 12, and then 36 is 3. 36 divided by 12 is 3. All right, so I'm going to write this over here, and then I'm going to come back and get my second piece, okay? So now I'm going to do pi r squared, and I'm going to plug in my radius, okay? That's what the r stands for, radius. All right, so I'm going to go, and if they give you the whole thing, say they give you this whole thing, and it's 4, just divide it in half, okay? Because the diameter is half of the radius. I mean, the radius is half of the diameter. All right, so all I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it around because that's the way I like to look at it. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay, so 2 squared is 4 pi. All right, now I'm going to move this over here so we know what we're doing. Okay, all right, now I have to put it together because remember the formula said they're multiplied by. All right, I'm going to draw a little line so you know now I'm actually doing the problem. All right, so it's going to be 1 over 3 times 4 pi. Don't get scared. Don't run to your calculator. Just hold on. I'll show you how to use it. All right, so I can literally, I just call it the sliding method because the 1 is on top. It only works if the 1 is on top. I'm literally just going to slide everything over because anything times 1 is itself. So I'm just going to ease that 3 over. I'm literally multiplying 4 pi by 3, by 1/3. Okay, so my new answer would be 4 pi over 3. All right, so I found the area of my sector. Okay, that was my plan. The next thing that I need to do, so check on that one. Next thing I need to do is find the area of the triangle. Now, believe it or not, that's actually the more tricky part of the two. All right, I'm gonna again write my plan down. All right, so our plan, we've already found the segment. The next thing that we're going to find, I think I'll choose magenta. The next thing we're gonna find is we're going to find the area of the triangle, which honestly, this is where I usually make my mistakes. I mean, I know I'm a tutor and everything, but I'm human just like everybody else, and I make mistakes quite often actually, especially in geometry. All right, and so right now we found this part, right? Oopsie, whatever. So now we're looking at for the area of the triangle. As you can remember, our formula was base times height over 2. Now, this is where the 30, 60, 90 triangle came into play. So I have to find the height, and the height runs through the middle. So I'm going to drop a line, and anytime I drop a line, it's going to form a perpendicular angle, which is going to create, you guessed it, 90-degree angles, okay? So I'm literally splitting the 120 in half, which means that this is 60 and this is 30, all right? So now I can start answering the other parts because I already told you about the 30, 60, 90. I'll say it again. I'm not going to write it again, but I am going to say it again. So just refer back to your notes if you're having trouble with it. All right, so first off, all right, so we have the 2. And if you take a line and draw it from your right triangle up here, you'll figure out that that's your hypotenuse, which is 2. All right, now remember our formula said the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the side, the shorter side. Okay, this one is our shorter side. All right, so what's half of 2? You guessed it, it's 1. You're so smart. Okay, so now the last thing and the more complicated, not for this one, but usually the more complicated one, is to find this longer leg, right? So the longer leg is actually really easy on this one because it's going to be 1 times the square root of 3, because remember side is 1, right? The side, the shorter side is 1. So 1 times square root of 3 is literally just square root 3. So we end up with just square root 3 for our base, but that's only half the base. We have to get this side too. Okay, so we have to add another square root. All right, so this goes back to our square root rules, okay? So the square root of 3 plus the square root of 3. Again, I'm doing that because I found half of it, of the base. Now I have to find the other half, okay? I'm getting my base. All right, so square root 3 plus square root 3 is literally 2 square root 3s. I'm telling myself how many I have. So there's 1 square root 3, there's another one. So that's where I got the 2 from. I'm just adding. If it helps you, there's an invisible 1 in front of all of those, whichever way you like to think about it, okay? So, all right, so when I come over here, I am going to have to, I'm gonna double this actually, and so this is what this is, okay? So maybe this wasn't the best thing. So we're just gonna get rid of this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, because that might be confusing for some of you. But I had to double my base. So therefore my whole base is 2 square root 3. All right, now I can do my base times height formula over 2. All right, so my base, I found my base was 2 square root 3. I had 2 of the 3 square roots. And then my height is literally the 1, okay? So there's 1. And then it's all over 2. I got that from right there from my formula. Now I'm going to multiply the top first, and then I'm going to simplify. Okay, so 2 times 1 is literally just 2 square root 3. All right, and then over 2. All right, so the next thing that I can do is I can reduce this 2 with that 2. So 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 2 one more time. All right, so then it left me with square root of 3. So now I have found the area of my triangle, which is literally just square root 3. All right, now we can go to the next one. Okay, that one was a lot harder than finding the area of the sector. I know you thought it was. I did too. Okay, so now we're going to combine it all. We're going to put all of those things together so that we can subtract, okay? No big deal here. We've already done all the work. You really can't mess this part up unless you're like me and don't pay attention. Sometimes I don't pay attention to detail. I'm not going to lie to anyone. All right, actually, I don't listen very well either, but that's supposed to be our secret. Okay, so we have figured out the area of the sector, and the area of the sector is 4 pi over 3. And we're going to subtract that from the square root of 3. Now, this is where I have to go back to my directions and really think. Okay, it told me to round it to the nearest 10th. If it had said leave it in pi form or radical, then this would have been my final answer. But it told me to the nearest 10th. So that means I have to evaluate it. I have to put it in the calculator. All right, I have seen some calculator mistakes. Please make sure you know how to use your calculator. So for this one, I don't suggest using your pi button. I would literally do 4 times 3.1 and 1/4 over 3. okay? So I would literally just multiply that in your calculator, and that will give you, I'm sorry, I had to write it down, 4.19. All right, I wish I was that smart and could keep numbers in my head, but I can't. All right, now the square root of 3. When you're using your calculator, you hit 3, and then you hit the square root button, okay? Don't hit the square root button and then 3. Most of them, it's the 3 and then the square root button. So the square root button will tell us that the square root of 3 is 1.73, and of course I've rounded that. All right, and so I'm just gonna pull it down here, 1.73. All right, so now all I have to do, excuse me, is subtract. So 4.19 minus 1.73 is gonna come out as 2.5, okay? It actually comes out at 2.46, but it told me to round to the nearest tenth, and so that's how I got the 2.5. All right, so we did it. We are done. So our final answer is going to be 2.5. The area of the segment is equal to 2.5. Great job sticking in. I know it was a very long problem. All right, leave me a comment. Do you have a comment about how I solved the problem, something you'd like to see me do? Okay, please leave me a comment at the bottom. You can also visit my website at www.angelthetutor.com. I have more videos, workbooks, and worksheets, and I also host live online tutoring classes, so you can check my schedule for that. Okay, thank you for watching. Remember, keep it neat, check your work, and keep working it out. I'm Angel the Tutor, and thank you for watching. Bye.